Good evening and welcome to Tuesday night's edition of Loud and Nerdy.
Good morning, Vietnam.
And my co-host here, Jerry, from the band Slapjaw, of course. We always have to include Slapjaw. How you doing tonight, Jerry?
Everything's pretty good on my end. You guys,
I think Jerry got a new computer or something.
AV problems.
Causing lots of problems for everybody with with audio, and
we need an AV guy.
So far, the first 10 minutes to get the show off the ground.
It was me last week, right? And it was you earlier, and now it's JW's turn.
Yep. But I do have Jim here with me, Cosmo, the author of the book. And gonna have a bunch of fun tonight. Good evening, Grand Poobah. That was close. We don't know what's going on. We don't know if JW is going to be able to join us, but we're going to still have some fun. Joe, if you want to jump in here, you're more than welcome to. Whole bunch of fun. But we're going to be talking about the unofficial Rocky Horror callback script, written by this gentleman right here, Jim Hetzer. Jim, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jim Hetzer. I'm the author of the unofficial Rocky Horror callback script. And it's available through Asylum Publishing, and it's got callbacks from around the world. We put out a thing on Facebook where we ask people from around the world to submit callbacks, their favorite responses to either actions or lines on the screen, and we took all of them, we compiled them together, and Asylum Publishing made a book out of it, and it turned out pretty good. I just got my copies yesterday. I'm really happy with it.
You hear us?
There he is.
I can hear everything.
So,
welcome our new guest, JW.
Okay.
Hi, Sean.
Hey, Sean Smithson, how you doing?
Jen. Hello,
We just started
Jamie
talking
Hill.
I'm sure you already did all the things that need to get done. All right, welcome us to Loud Nerdy and everything.
Yep, we just started talking about this book. We're right in the middle.
I did not include, though, if you like what you see here, make sure to give us a like, a follow, a subscribe on any of the social media platforms.
How could you? How could you forget that?
I got it in before the Poobah yelled at me.
But how could you forget? How could you forget that? That's the most important thing ever.
You weren't here because you couldn't hear it. I had to wait till you could hear it.
Yeah, because I'm the one that needs it. Anyway, how you doing, Jim? Good to have you on the show. Welcome.
Doing well. Nice to be here.
We're happy to have you. I'm happy to have Kyle back. I forgot to do comments last night. It was wild. It was fun. We were just talking. We got very heavy into Lost in Translation last night. Okay, well, Kyle's. So I have a couple questions about the book because I'm fascinated by the idea that the Rocky Horror callback script. What I find fascinating the most about it's that it's an ever-changing organism, right? It's the kind of thing that, depending on where you live or who you voted for or different things, right? It all changes.
Yeah.
It all changes based on where you're at and what news stories that you've had in your town that week or that year, right? Or, you know what I mean? So I'm curious as to how you made the decision, because it's such a regional kind of thing for the callbacks. How did you make the decision? What made it? What didn't make it into the book?
Well, we had quite a few submissions. Some casts have put out their own script in the past. Some of them did it, 20 years ago. So we took all of the scripts that we could find, and then we had a Facebook group with 300 or so members, and people were just firing their favorite lines out, and we took the funniest ones that weren't extremely regional. The ones that people would get on a
could use anywhere. Okay, that's a great explanation. Do you have a favorite callback line? What's your favorite line?
My absolute favorite one is a sight gag, but Janet, Brad's wiping the windshield, and Janet opens her mouth and goes like out of surprise, and for the audience just yell ah, that's one of my favorite ones. But there's the line of where Frank says a weakling wearing 98 pounds gets sand in his face, and I like how it's changed to the audience will yell, "Who is Timothy Chalamet?" as opposed to what we used to yell.
That's good.
Well, a couple years ago, it's described Mike Pence.
Yeah. That shows you how it how it changed.
I always thought my favorite one was when Frank is attacking Brad, and he's like, "There's no crime in giving yourself over to pleasure," or it might be Janet, and there's no crime to give her over to pleasure. And then everywhere I went, the same was like, it was either there is in New Jersey.
Correct.
Or there isn't, Monticello, New York is where we did it once.
Yeah.
There's whatever the city that you lived in.
So this book, right now, if you go to that line, I think it says it is in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
That makes
where I live.
Perfect. That makes perfect fucking sense.
Yeah.
You guys have a Chili's now, so everything's great.
Yeah, I just heard about that. It's an office themed
fucking ridiculous.
We're getting a Wawa in Moscow.
Are you really getting a Wawa?
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, you guys have arrived.
I wouldn't have moved to Scranton if they put Sheets down in Cincinnati. I moved here for the hot dogs.
Okay, so
when Frank's at the end, when he's dishing out the cards for sorrow, cards for pain, and right before that, you yell out, "What is Magic the Gathering?"
Yeah.
Cool.
Now, see, like
I always liked. I'm sorry. You're the guest. Go. I'm sorry. I'll tell you in a second.
10 years ago, I don't know that we would have said that one, but see how times have changed. Now they'll say, something like that.
Or Pokemon. It could be a Pokemon thing too.
Yeah. I think that's what we used to yell.
I will say. Go ahead.
A newer one when Riff's about to throw the candelabra, the candle. The new callback line is Charmander, I choose you. And he whips it down there.
I remember, I think the day after O.J. Simpson was in the news when he's driving with that white Bronco, when Rocky was running around the theater yelling, "Run, O.J., run." And, that's changed quite a bit. And I did that the day after it happened to show you how long it's been.
I always love the shadow, the shadow right before the Frank song at the end. It's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, this theater proudly brings to you Judy Garland in Alfalfa Shadow."
Right.
Yeah. So is there something when you're looking at a callback script? Can you give me something that was too regional that you went, nobody's going to get this? Because you're originally from Cincinnati, right?
Right.
Is there something or so regional that you went, nobody?
When Rocky walks up to the light panel, right before the curtain goes up and Frank sings, Rocky goes up to the light panel and he just hits on the panel to turn all the lights on. And we used to say it's a Cincinnati State graduate, because at Cincinnati State they taught engineering, and but before the college changes, CTC graduate. Or we also, being in Cincinnati, we had the University of Cincinnati, which was called UC. So am I allowed to cuss on here?
A UC,
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. You're allowed to. What do you mean? You can't fucking cuss on here.
Okay, so we would say,
Jesus
when
Christ.
Frank goes, "UC," fate had seemed, he would say "UC" right as he starts with the lab scene. We would say, "Where all the gays hang out," and he would say "UC," and then all of the college students from the University of Cincinnati, they would all yell and be happy, because we just mentioned their college. So that's another extremely regional one. So
super excited. So Is this so? This book is like, this is a love affair with Rocky Horror. How long have you been involved with Rocky Horror in your lifetime? Like, how old are you? And then what's the amount of years you've been part of Rocky Horror?
I'm turning 53, and I've done it for 92, so 32 years. It's been about 32
years out of your 53.
Yeah.
So 21 is when you were dragged into this.
About 2021 when I started. May 20th, yeah.
Fuck, I got him beat. Oh, fuck.
I got you both beat, but that's only because my dad ran a theater in Monticello, New York, and we did Rocky Horror on the weekends. And I, I was what, let's see, 12, 10, 11, 12 in that range. And we ran it for 3 years before. And then I had a big, long, kind of like away from it. And then I got a card from some schmuck. And, as I was running a theater.
Find a theater. And he was the theater manager that answered us.
Really? Okay.
Well, I was just looking to make money. I had been installed as a manager for an independent theater, and I had Rocky Horror when I was younger with my dad, and then I was like, I told Dave Dave Castelli, the owner of the theater, the day the letter came, I'm like, we should do this. I don't know how it's going to work with regards to charging, not charging, but we'll make enough concession money most nights to warrant staying open. Or we can even start at 10 o'clock or whatever we want to do. But eventually we got to the point where we contacted Fox and had some sort of deal in place. And then we were allowed to charge money for it. And then it became less fun after that, because it was like, now we were.
No. Yeah, we're losing them. We're losing them. And we lost them. So let's go to some of the comments while we try and get JW back. Where Raven is. Her favorite one is, what color is your pubic hair? Magenta.
We're making money. Well, no, we were trying to make sure we're making money. So it became.
That was amazing.
Oh, no.
We totally lost a lot of that, JW. But so Raven's favorite comment, what color is your pubic hair? Magenta. Where do you get your drugs? Columbia. It's a funny one. And I always go, why do you go to Columbia to get your drugs? South 4th Street in Scranton is so much closer.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect regional one.
Regional.
It's funny, and I would have loved to put it in, but they wouldn't have got it,
And then mine is oral sex, anal sex with whip sex, and chain sex. So, but you forgot about the sheep and the goats.
See, you got to imagine, this still has to be seen by Disney, because Disney owns the film. So I couldn't go extremely bad.
Frank is a Disney princess.
No, he's an evil queen. Max Headroom has entered the chat. My favorite story, though, still is the first time we did a time warping for Tots with JW at Endless Mountain, and we had 2 Marines there in full dress blues. And they walked out of there. Had to be 4 or 5 boxes of toys, a couple $100.
It was great. They made it was
great. But those gentlemen, like these girl after girl, walked in, took off this big ass heavy winter jacket with just Janet outfits, like floor show outfits.
Yeah.
And these Marines, their faces are just dropping every time a jacket dropped.
Yeah, it was. Well, Scranton is unusually cold, and so the jackets going into the shows were always much heavier than anything coming out.
But then the best also.
Oh, General Cinema. Wait, hold on.
Beaumont Mall, and right there,
Rocky Horror.
Yeah. So that is well after my dad. My dad ran that theater too. So the Ritz is still fully functional. I believe that's 1985, Jerry.
Can I
would be
ask,
my.
what was that you did? You did like a toys, like a bring toys for tots?
Yeah, we didn't at the first at first we didn't
For tots.
Oh, that's
right
fantastic. I
and
never
we
heard of
didn't
that.
and we didn't do well. We didn't charge to let anybody in. So the only thing you had to pay for we had that they were selling prop bags, and we were like, you're not paying to get in. So if you could buy a popcorn, that would be great.
Right.
Because that's how movie theaters make their money.
Right.
And then, we eventually got to the point where we could charge because we had Fox, and Fox didn't care because we didn't need to print. We did it digitally. We had a digital projector that was able to do a full projection of the movie without any kind of bad connection. Like, it was fine. You know what I mean?
What year was this?
Oh, Jesus. This was 20 years
fuck.
ago.
Jesus Christ.
It was probably like
99, 98, 2000, around there.
BC or AD?
Okay.
Kyle will tell you that you'll appreciate this. The biggest problem we had an Easter show.
Oh, Jesus.
This has come up on the show before. We had an Easter show, and some of the people in Kyle's cast, I'm not counting Kyle and Misty, but some people in Kyle's cast were a few sandwiches short of a picnic. And so we had all kinds of people. There was like 200 people at that show. It was a big show, right? So there was a lot of people. And one of the people, who was it? Your Rocky. It was your Rocky. It was a Riff. Okay. Whoever did it, they put nickels and pennies into Easter eggs and wrapped them with tape. And it's like, oh, somebody, threw an Easter egg to the back and everything will be fun and everything's great. And the only problem is if you put an Easter egg, a plastic Easter egg with coin in it. Yeah, I do love to bring. Well, the Easter show is the show I actually thought it was all coming to an end. I think that's every Rocky movie theater's manager's feeling, is the episode that almost came to an end. Anyway. So they wrapped it, put tape on it, and once you put coin in a plastic ball and wrap it, it becomes a launch projectile. And we had a girl in the very back row, and he was firing for the back row because it was the back row line in the back row, and he fired it back, and she got flush. Would you say flush, Kyle? Flush in the face. Flush in the face with a projectile bomb egg.
Sounds like Spirit Week.
I got a pretty good scar right here on my eyebrow. I was playing Eddie one day, and we came around, as Eddie, I come around the thing, and back in the 90s, I used to have a horrible stage fright. So I would always tell the light guy, give me as bright as you can, just shine it right in my face so I can't see the audience. So I come around in that bright light, and all I see is this little tiny dot come through the light, and then it hit me literally. I got hit in the face with a can of cat food right here, and it busted my face open. And I had a latex scar because the guy our Riff used to.
Kyle, were you at this show? Were you at this show that this happened?
No, this was.
It sounds like I'm joking.
I had a latex scar. Spirit glued to my head. So when the ambulance showed up, because I was bleeding crazy, and they thought that the latex scar was part of the cut. Now the cut was still 3.5 inches, and I was bleeding like crazy. But so they took me out in the ambulance with thinking that this giant latex scar, because I played Eddie. And they thought that was part of the scar.
They thought it was like a really good makeup job that night.
Yeah.
I got hit with a circular saw blade.
Your Halloween costume. Kyle, so it happened at another show?
I guess. I don't remember.
Jeez. Yeah, that's
But telling. I mean, now I got a defense here, because look. They were told to hand them out, not toss them like footballs.
Okay, so you're essentially going with
so basically here's these eggs.
You're going the Mike Walls thing. I didn't know Signal wasn't proper.
Encrypted message.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question. I have a couple questions for you. How did we get the nickname Cosmo, Jim?
I showed up at a show in 1993. I showed up at the Halloween show, and I had my head completely shaved like this, and I was in green scrubs to dress up like Cosmo McKinley from the sequel to Rocky Horror, Shock Treatment.
Yes.
And someone called me Cosmo, and the name stuck from there.
And it just stuck. So is you're in Scranton now. Is your Cincinnati cast still up and running, or is it?
They're the second longest running cast in the country. And yes, I know that they're still up, but I haven't seen them in probably 10 years.
Okay. Let's ask other questions. Are you still doing? I can imagine. Are you doing the radio show still or no?
Rocky Radio.
Oh no, we stopped Rocky Radio in the 2000s. We started that in like 96, 97. And we did one episode in 2009 because we had we threw a big Rocky Horror convention in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, and we had two really obscure people from the movie at the hotel, and we had so much time to kill because we flew them over from England, and we're like, well, what the hell are we supposed to do with two Transylvanians? So
have a radio show, have a podcast. Yeah, that sounds. So what was
stuck in a hotel and I paid for your services? Get in here, you tranny.
Yeah, I mean they can only spend so much time at the pool.
Yeah, listen. Well, and Transylvanians do like to party. Anyway, so what was the thought? What was the thought behind it? What was the idea behind Rocky Radio? What was because I have questions because I like to do research. So I was looking at like all the different things that you've done. This book seems like a culmination of your love affair with Rocky Horror, but I'm intrigued by the other stops on your journey. You know what I mean?
Well, with Rocky Radio, I had a recording studio in my house, and I thought there would be something cool coming up. And this was like 96, 97. And I was like, I bet people would like to hear Rocky Horror people talk to each other. And we went to different cities, and we broadcast from Cleveland and Huntington, West Virginia. We did one in, I think, Hobart. And so we tore around with my rig.
Cleveland, I bet, was a good city. I bet you Cleveland was a good city because they had that episode of the Drew Carey show that.
Yeah, and Drew Carey's thing was in Parma, where he was from, and we actually did it in Parma at a guy named Kev JB's house. He just retired like 2 weeks ago. He did the show up there for 30 plus years. He's the guy I threw the Rocky Horror conventions with in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. Great fan, great guy, known him for years. A lot of fun. Cleveland shows once a month. They do it the first Saturday of the month, and you go up there, and they've just been doing it forever. And the theater seats like 400 people, and they'll get 300. And 300 people in a thin, long room is fantastic. They got a great backstage, and the cast was always fun. Yeah, Cleveland was always fun.
How long between concept and publishing? How long have you been working on the book?
On this book?
Yeah.
28 days. I was supposed to write
So a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, I was supposed to write the book for the 50th anniversary, 50 years of Rocky Horror. So I started writing that, and then okay. So I happened to I see on my Facebook feed while I'm writing this book, I saw something say that this other woman, Sal Piro, who was the fan club president, his sister was writing 2 Rocky Horror books. And I was like, well, that's weird. I wonder what 2 books she's writing. One of them turned out to be about Sal, and one was about the 50th anniversary.
It's like, son of a bitch, you stole my idea.
And I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, with the same publisher. And I was like, well, shit, wait a minute. I thought I was writing it.
That sounds like they were hedging their bets, Jim.
Yeah.
They were hedging their bets.
I didn't find out until I asked about it. I was like, "Hey, am I still doing this book?" And they were like, "No, she's doing it because Sal had recently passed away, and I guess Lou Adler's doing one as well. So, and I'm definitely not going to fight against, try to get sales against Lou Adler."
No.
And they said, "Would you be interested? Can you do 2 books this year? Can you do an unofficial callback script?" They didn't call it that, but they said, "Will you do a callback script? And then when you do one that goes through and lists all of the items available, like a buyer's guide, like a thing where you list every Rocky Horror item that's ever been sold, what it was worth originally, and what it's worth now." And I did that back in 2015, and they wanted a reissue of that. So
that's interesting.
they told me on January 26th to write this book, and I got mine in the mail yesterday. So we got it done. It helps having Kyle and Missy here, and then Dawn downstairs. It helps when you live with 3 other Rocky Horror people, because they can throw out.
Well, and yes, and that is something that I think is an interesting thing that I don't know what the 50th anniversary books are going to be about. Like, I would assume it's just about like the idea that it's a cult film and all this other stuff. But I think I think something that Rocky Horror brings to the table is the wide swath of people that like get brought together by it. Like, I wouldn't have known Kyle and Missy without it. So I appreciate the movie for that. But it's just the sheer volume of people you meet when you go to a Rocky Horror Picture Show, and it's not necessarily. It's the one or two movies where it's not a lot of politics, doesn't matter. Not a lot of socioeconomic stuff doesn't matter, right?
Right.
It's a movie that has transcended time, but is also it transcends fighting. That has become
right. But there's also a huge there's a wave happening where just a few days ago, before I even got my copy of the book, I was getting emails from people like, "Well, I hope you didn't use the F word because casts are trying to get rid of that," or "I hope you didn't make any Nazi jokes because casts are trying to get rid of that." And so Missy had a great response. She's like, "Well, as for using the F word, it is an R-rated movie, and they do use the F word in the movie." True. And that's one of the reasons.
Wait a second. Wait, we're trying to sanitize Rocky?
Oh, hell yeah. California?
That makes no fun. That makes no
sound, buddy.
Well, let me clear that up for everybody. That makes no fucking sense.
Amen.
That's crazy. Well, and that's interesting.
That's one of the reasons the book is.
How do you get past the movie without going? We don't want to use the word fuck. Well, how do you deal with a guy giving a blowjob in the middle of the movie? How does that work?
You put it in the book a million times just because.
No,
2 Octobers ago, I went to see the show in Columbus, Ohio, and believe it or not, I don't yell out many callbacks. And one of the callbacks is when Brad says, "Dr. Scott, what are you implying?" The audience where I was from, we always said he's a gay Nazi. Okay, so in the middle of this movie, someone came over and told me, "Hey, be really cautious. We don't use the word Nazi here because so and so in the cast is Jewish." And they took time out. A member of the cast.
I thought I thought you were going in a totally different place. I thought you were like a few of the people who come to the show every week are MAGA people. I thought that's where you were going. There
are some MAGA people.
No, they're actually fine with it. They want.
They want all the dirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jim, are you doing the updated version of stuff that's available? Are you talking about when you say the updated version of stuff available? Are you talking about like auctionable props, like that sort of thing? Or are you talking about
like the Funko Pop heads and like the headliner?
Oh, okay. So just like memorabilia.
Yeah,
like
a ton of stuff.
So like a Steve Sansweet guide to Star Wars figures kind of thing.
Right.
Okay.
And we
Okay,
did one
that
in
makes sense.
2015, and that became a few weeks ago. That became the best-selling Rocky Horror book of all time. The one from 2015.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
that's an incredible accomplishment.
Right.
For a movie that's 50 years old,
Right.
being the most popular book about said movie is a nice rub.
Yeah.
So I have so you played the criminologist. Is the criminologist your favorite character?
No, Eddie is.
Eddie.
I
You
played
fucking
Eddie
Eddie
for a
people.
long time, and then I started playing Crim because I don't look good in a wig, and I'm horrible at dancing.
And that never
and,
stopped Kyle.
And then it ended up I fell in love with the
I hate you, JW.
I hate you too, Kyle.
I fell in love with the feeling of standing in the theater with 300 people in the audience. Everyone in that theater is looking this way, and I'm the only one looking that way. That's what I fell in love with.
Yeah, that's for Crim.
And I do a thing. The second last criminologist scene. The scene is horribly boring, and during the scene, it's about 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And so instead of doing the lines for that scene, I have these signs like Subterranean Lovesick Blues by Bob Dylan. I just hold up these signs, and the first one says, "This scene is so boring," and I throw it down. And then I do a bunch of one-liner jokes written on these cards. And a purist of Rocky Horror would hate it because I'm not doing the movie lines, but the crowd loves it. We just did it a couple of weeks ago here in Pennsylvania, and the audience went crazy for it. And it was fantastic.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is, one thing about Rocky that I always found fascinating is that people are open to whatever you kind of bring to the table, whatever new stuff you bring. So like when I was doing my stuff, like
Except Easter eggs.
except fucking
On the face of Easter eggs.
Except fucking Easter eggs. Son of a bitch.
How many times has Jerry seen Rocky Horror in a theater with a cast?
Oh, once, I think.
Once?
Yeah. Yeah, probably one time.
That's impressive.
Give these away to your audience.
Just once?
I got a couple of them.
Just once? Really?
Where did you see it, Jerry?
It was one of them old school ones.
Well, was it? Wait, so
Jerry's a virgin and don't want to tell us.
I wouldn't
I
fucking.
saw way back when with some of those guys.
I wouldn't fucking tell you people either. To be honest,
I'm dating a girl who lives in Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, with Niagara Falls specifically. Oh, that's okay, Jerry. The one I would say you probably maybe where you saw it. I mean, because we even did it prom night. We did it prom night down in Wilkes-Barre.
No, I didn't.
The theater in Wilkes-Barre had a terrible print. The General Cinema in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania had a print that was so fucking old and so cut to ribbons that we invited you, and he says he's coming. He never shows up, and I've been to his shows. Wow, they sound hurt, Jerry. Missy
well, if they didn't have shows at damn shopping, or
I'm not calling you out, Jerry, but I'm not calling you out. But I've been to your shows, and I've showed you mine, but you haven't shown me yours. Also, we had a theater, a General Cinema in the Wyoming Valley Mall. They had a print of Rocky Horror. It was shredded. It was like it had fucking like vast chunks of the movie missing. Like
when we got ours in Cincinnati, Ohio, when we moved to the Real Movies in 1995, I think it was, what we received, they were literal like paper bags, and they were all taped up, and we laid all the pieces of film out on the floor of the theater, and we taped it together. And then they took the pieces upstairs. I remember walking them up the stairs where they spliced the film together. And there was one piece that we had double of.
You need an actual projectionist.
Yeah, back when we had a real projectionist.
We had real projectionists.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you that particular theater, there were people in the people were part of that cast, a cast that did it down there. And I've been to that theater a couple times to see it when I was younger, especially prom night 1992. We definitely went that night. But they had a ripped up print, and Sal Piro,
And Max Hedrum's back.
him earlier, he came to that theater and saw how bad the no. Look,
I want that
Look.
no.
no.
That sounded like Sal. That's
Yeah,
what Sal-
it sounded like Sal. Sal, no, we
That's
can't
one
have
of
this
them
bad
call
print.
outs. Put it in the book.
Put it in the fucking book. What are you charging for signed copies? This is a good. Oh, two questions, Cosmo. This ties together. One, where can people find this particular book? How can we get this book?
You can go to asylumpublications.com, or you can go to my website, cosmosfactory.org. There's a link there. The publisher sells them for $17.95 a copy, and it'll be on Amazon as well, I do believe. But we'll also be at our shows, and we'll have them for like $15. I'll sell them cheaper. So, and I'll sign them obviously because I'll be there and all that fun stuff.
Oh, that's not bad at all. That's
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it, Joe. I don't want to hear anything, Joe.
No, Joe. No.
Am I going? I hate you, Kyle. I hate you, Kyle.
What the hell is going
What's
on?
happening?
We have a massive rainstorm down here tonight. So
It's Florida.
it's April. It is what it is.
April in Florida.
It was like 90 degrees today. It was so fucking hot.
I wouldn't
Cosmo,
mind that right now.
we're gonna do some news and stuff now. You want to stick around and chit chat about movie news and stuff?
Whatever you want to do.
We're gonna. I want you to stick around. We also do a Twilight Zone episode, a Twilight Zone thing that Kyle doesn't actually pay attention to. It's great. I'm gonna give Kyle credit though. Doesn't happen often. Congratulations, Kyle. You got this one right. The Working Man, #1 movie at the box office this week. It grossed $15 million. It beats Snow White, which is not that big a deal. As we talked about.
Working Man gets #1 movie this week.
It was but again, they're cheap to make, and he's making a boatload of, they're making a good amount of money on them. So congratulations. I saw Death of a Unicorn, however, and I loved it. It was great, very funny. It becomes a gross out horror comedy by the end. And it has a great cast. Paul Rudd, Will Poulter, Tia Leone returning. Jenna Ortega, really good.
How many unicorns did they kill?
Just one.
Just one?
The other unicorns in the movie are so fucking deadly. It's not a regular unicorn movie. It's not a happy, they're not pleasant creatures. The cool thing about the movie, so first off, Ortega's really good. Rudd's really good. All the supporting actors are very good. And even Tia Leone, who I didn't realize has not been on screen, for 12 years. And she's really good. Will Poulter, who was in Guardians of the Galaxy, and was also in Meet the Millers, right? That kid, he's fantastic. He steals every scene he's in. He's like the smarmy son of a billionaire who starts, basically snorting unicorn blow. You know what I mean? Like, just starts snorting horn dust and all kinds of shit, and he's just a terrible human.
Am I able to get that here in Scranton?
Unicorn blow?
Just call me Pegasus.
You have to go to Southside Bowling Lanes.
You don't know how funny that is.
That'd be my guess.
Does he know?
Or Richard's Pub.
Okay. I work at Southside Bowling Lanes.
I don't know that, but that would be my
I
guess.
really do.
You worked with Jeff
Well,
Occhipini, did you?
Cosmo, I don't know if they told, like, I don't know if Kyle missed. I lived in
Jeff
Trent for
down there.
my entire life almost, and I moved to Florida about like 10 years ago now. So it's
And he's not even retirement age.
well, I'm broken. It's fine.
So early.
Yeah, I'm fine. But the movie's good. If you want to see it, it's cutting edge, very funny.
Is that a picture from the movie?
Yeah,
It's like Jurassic Park.
that's exactly first half of the movie is first half of the movie is a quiet kind of like haves and have-nots kind of view of the world with like a lawyer and his daughter going to meet a billionaire to try to sign him up for the lawyer to take control of this guy's empire as he's dying. And they hit a unicorn on the way. They hit a unicorn with a car. It's a baby unicorn, but it's still a unicorn. And basically it clears up her acne. It does all kinds of stuff. It makes his eyesight better. So immediately when they get to the billionaire's house and the unicorn starts to come back alive a little bit after they beat it with a club, they basically kind of like start coming up with medicinal ways to use the unicorn and trying to bring the billionaire back to life. And so it starts out that way as a comedy, but like, how much do you have to sell your soul to the devil to like make yourself feel okay about yourself and take care of your daughter and take care of your family? And then about midway through it shifts because the unicorn parents show up, and that's about the size. So it's not like a unicorn like legend. It's like a fucking Clydesdale. Like they're huge and the horns are huge and they do a lot of fucking damage. So it becomes it's a little bit, it becomes like a gore comedy, and it is a little bit like Orca.
Kind of.
In the sense that, you know, if you're going for somebody killing a baby and then the parents showing up and being a little bit angry and bitter, that's a little bit how it goes. A lot of people get gored, trampled, ripped apart. And also the cool thing I will say, the coolest thing about it is it's based on an actual set of art. Well, no, it's based on artwork.
Oh, okay.
So there's these things called the unicorn tapestries that are in the New York Museum of Art, modern art. And basically they extrapolated out the ideas of what the unicorns would do if they were in captivity. So it becomes like it's this weird, somebody went to a fucking art show and wrote a script on and just kind of made new things. So it's a fun movie. It's dark, and Will Poulter steals every scene he's in, and it's pretty great. I enjoyed it immensely, but it was not number one. It's struggling at the box office, which is okay. Everything will be struggling at the box office come Friday, though, because this is happening. Where did I put it? It's here somewhere. Hold on. Maybe I didn't put it. Maybe I was like, I don't want to put it. But I shouldn't say that because my nephews are beyond excited. They just dropped the fucking they just dropped the Happy Meals and shit today. Fucking Minecraft is gonna take over the world for the next 6 days.
Is that Jack Black?
That is Jack Black. He's playing Steve and Jason Momoa, and just but to put in perspective, McDonald's is doing the largest, and this I never heard any of the amounts of money that are being spent on this movie. McDonald's is doing a giant advertisement with them where not only are there adult Happy Meals, there are kid Happy Meals, 2 different types of toy, 12 in total. We have an 8-year-old and a 7-year-old in the house, and it's going to be difficult the next couple of weeks because the only thing that they're going to want are fucking Minecraft toys. And but it's the largest, to put it in perspective, it is the largest advertisement run in the history of McDonald's. Nothing's ever been seen like this. There's adult, like they did adult boxes a couple years ago for like, they did McNuggets by a contemporary artist, and they were big sellers. And now they have a Minecraft box that has a different set of toys.
When you say
So-
they did McNuggets, you mean they changed the shape of them?
No, they hold on. Let me see if we can find
Oh, that would be amazing, though.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, no,
They
no,
should
they
make
did.
unicorn
No,
ones for the
they-
unicorn movie.
they should make- They should make
nuts?
unicorn ones. No, it was a contemporary. Do you remember the McNugget toys they had in the 80s that you could dress up like other things? The McNuggets were like kind of like
they did it a couple years ago again.
right. Well, they did it last year, and it was like a huge to do. I don't know where the shit is, but it was a huge to do, and there are golden McNuggets, like they're toys, they're toys, but they were adult themed boxes that you had to buy.
And
And
you got a golden McNugget. You got to go to the McDonald's factory.
if you got a golden McNugget, they're worth
Like my
$150.
grandfather.
They're worth $150, Kyle, and I have.
What were the adult theme ones like?
Well, no, it was just like it was an art.
long and cylindrical.
It was an
It's
art.
irrelevant.
I think this
I
is a
love the
rocket.
flex that JW did, though. They're
It
worth
looks like a
150,
rocket.
and I have one.
I do have one. I do. I
You
can't
got a
find it.
rocket when
I'll bring
I
it.
got like a clam
I'll bring
one.
it. I'll bring it next week. I'll show
get it out
you
of my
the.
safe deposit box next week for you guys.
I'll show you the golden
That's
McNugget
right.
next week. He's adorable. But yeah, so
Well,
this is
looks
the
like
large. These toys are very valuable these days.
Can you imagine how well this movie would do if it was 5 years ago?
Can you imagine how well this movie would do if it was good? I can't see it being good. It looks maniacal and crazy. But I have an 8-year-old and a 7-year-old that are super excited. We're going on Sunday, so we'll see what happens. What else? Other news. CinemaCon's going on, kids. CinemaCon is going on in Las Vegas. That is the annual convention for theater exhibitors. It's usually where a lot of cool things happen. There have been a lot of major announcements in the last couple of days. And let's talk about some of them now. Hold on.
Is that where people expose themselves to theaters?
A little bit. It could be viewed that way. But
Okay,
it's
so there are
more.
a few of those.
It's not. It's like a Rocky Horror Show that goes a little bit wrong.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Part 2.
Part 2. Well, no, it's mostly like it's a giant thing designed for theater goers. It's theater exhibitors. Basically, the film industry comes in. They do sizzle reels. They do all kinds of stuff where they basically want you to get excited about what's happening. This was a major announcement. Fuck. This was a major announcement. I couldn't get it to do it. Hold on. Hey, big guy, show me your McNuggets. Well, here's the thing. It's a personal thing. I'll show it to you next week. You got to come back next week. This movie was announced at CinemaCon this week. Spider-Man Brand New Day opens July 31st, 2026. So it's a 4 Spider-Man movie. Confirmed to have Tom Holland. Brand New Day is they're filming it right now. It's beginning filming in a couple weeks. Lots of casting around that as well. Other big news, Beyond the Spider-Verse, which is the last of the Miles Morales animated movies, is set for June 4th, 2027, which is a long way off. But the Spider-Man announcement is pretty big in its own right. And then there's also a plethora of like new designs and logos. So something like this, which is super cool. 28 Days Later, that's the new working poster of 28 Days Later. We're getting a Know What You Did Last Summer reboot, which is interesting. 28 Days Later, that poster reminds me of the fucking Predator poster, but
it does.
It really does. How about this one? This is a Jurassic Park standee that will appear in theaters, which is fucking...
That's pretty cool looking.
That's amazing. This is a movie coming out that's from the director of... it's based on a Stephen King book. It's called The Life of Chuck. It's basically the guy who did all the Legend of Hell House shows on Netflix. This one will excite Missy. Here we go. Black Phone 2 in theaters October 17th. I am being a tease. You have to come back next week, Steven.
So what is it?
Can there be a 2 to that movie? Didn't the guy get killed?
He did get killed, but I would say what they're doing with a lot of these things, and we're going to get to one in a second, some of these movies are prequels, so I would imagine it's going to be another kid taken by the character. Everybody's back. Megan 2, you and I, Jerry and Kyle talked about this. Megan 2 coming out with the idea that Megan 2 might be more in line with Terminator 2 than a straight horror sequel, which is kind of cool. How about this? This is Until Dawn and Karate Kid Legends, which is coming out in May. Because we're getting a Jackie Chan, Ben Wang, and Ralph Macchio in Karate Kid Legends.
This is my friend, Mr. Wang. No offense.
No offense. How about this? How about this?
My God.
Toxic.
I was going to see JW's Wang all night. You promised it this week.
Hey, Wang, look at the pictures. It's a parking lot.
Toxic Avenger reboot is coming August 29th.
That actually looks interesting if you're a Trauma fan, though.
It does.
They tried to make
Robert,
it like
how about this one? Look at this. Robert Englund and Richard Brake, Pinocchio, designed by Todd Masters, Pinocchio Unstrung, from the studio that brought you Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. The interesting thing here is, I think Robert Englund is playing Geppetto, which is fucking crazy.
Time, Pinocchio.
This one is my favorite picture because it's literally the license to print money for July of this year. Ready? So in July, we have Jurassic World opening on July 2nd, Superman opening on July 11th, and Fantastic Four opening on July 25th. I think it could be the biggest July in the history of cinema.
Really?
Yes, it's going to be crazy because I think they're all going to hit. I especially think I think Jurassic World's going to hit because it was just named on the Fandango list of the most anticipated movie of the year. I don't know how that happened because I think Superman and Fantastic Four are higher, but Jurassic World Rebirth is an interesting case because Scarlett Johansson is trying to been getting into a amazing amount of Jurassic World movies. She's been trying to make a Jurassic Park movie forever.
That's the one where he's dressed like Tomb Raider, right?
Yes. How about this? This is one that's getting a lot of buzz. It's called Together, Alison Brie and Dave Franco. And the poster's fucking ghastly. Look at it. Look at them kissing and becoming one. Right under the Smurfs movie coming out with Rihanna as Smurfette. Where else can you get the
cool poster?
Oh, you mean this Wicked, Missy? This is the first Wicked poster that dropped this week at CinemaCon, November 21st. I don't know that I like the title, but this is a great poster. You know, you have everything going on that you need in this poster. Here's one that I wasn't expecting that got announced at CinemaCon, Nobody 2, which is a very underrated action movie that came out a couple years ago.
It was all right.
It's a good movie. And then the latest from Jordan Peele. It's called Him, and it's basically greatness demands a sacrifice. So it's about football, and it's also about, I guess, ritual sacrifices. And then they released some more Superman stuff. So you got this Superman picture and this badass Superman picture.
That's horrible, though.
That's horrible.
The movie's going to be great.
It's badass. Horrible.
Yeah. Red on blue does not look good in any context. Red and blue. Yeah.
Red and blue is not great. But that's CinemaCon. CinemaCon's having a big
together on 3D glasses, though.
They also announced today, and Kyle will be appreciative of this because I know how much Kyle likes this. This got announced today that we are getting a John Wick 5. It will
search for a new dog.
Wait.
It will be a prequel.
Oh,
so it's going to take place before the first movie.
Training class.
And they're also doing some sort of animated movie with Max. So I told you to not make the cover blue, damn it. But CinemaCon is one of the biggest things going on right now. Everybody's talking, everybody's flapping the gums. You got a lot of stories coming out of CinemaCon about movies that are coming, movies that are making their presence felt this summer, but also future. The release date 2 years in advance of a Spider-Man Beyond the Universe, like the next universe Spider-Man movie, Beyond the Spider-Verse, June 4th, 2027. It will be almost 5 years to the date of the other one. So, and that movie, those two Spider-Verse movies have increased in box office through each successive movie. First one did okay. Second one did $682 million globally. So,
are there examples of movies, like movie franchises, where a prequel comes out and it's embraced and it does better than the original franchise?
Give me a second. A prequel comes out. A prequel in the sense of like stuff with other, like the original people in it.
Or either one. I mean,
we're Jim. We're kind of in a place now of IP and reboot quills is what they're calling them, where you kind of reboot a franchise, but you also need to have key components of the franchise already there.
Right.
So, like an example, that would be the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie, or the Karate Kid. Right, the Karate Kid is a great example of Cobra Kai completely changed the franchise. So now we're getting Karate Kid Legends. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, maybe Godfather 2 was better than 1. That's sort of a prequel, right?
Yeah, I mean, Godfather 2 is considered a prequel because it is. It's De Niro playing Brando, but I think you're looking for like
it is and it isn't, right?
You're looking for a prequel franchise, though, like.
Well, I meant like Star Wars or something like that, but now he mentions Godfather. That's true.
Godfather Part 2 is, and technically, the Star Wars prequels aren't embraced, right?
Right.
They're never going to be the originals. But like, I'm trying to think like prequels that were actually kind of like something that did well,
as good or better.
As good or better.
Yeah.
Prequels.
Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead is a weird franchise in that regard. Because Evil Dead 2, technically Evil Dead 2 isn't a prequel.
No, it's
technically
like a remake.
It's a direct remake, Jerry, right?
Yeah.
So Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn
can't be. More at its disposal.
It's a direct remake. Prequels, I will say the latest one that I can think of where it's a prequel technically to the entire franchise, the last Alien movie, Romulus, takes place before most of the franchise.
Or even the Predator, that Prey movie, right? Isn't that supposed to be sort
Prey is a prequel that got there are two. There are two that I can legitimately say are great movies that have also been embraced enough where we're getting a Prey, same group of people that made Prey are making another Predator movie. I think it's called Predator Badlands. I don't know that it's better than the original, but Prey's solid.
You're gonna hate this take.
Go ahead.
And don't think of it as old as you are, but think of it from someone a lot younger.
The prequels? You think you think Phantom Menace?
No, not Star Wars. Wicked technically is a prequel because it started before Wizard of Oz.
Right.
And there's a whole generation that probably wouldn't watch Wizard of Oz because it started in black and white and how old the movie is. But because of the popularity of Wicked, it now got them to watch Wizard of Oz.
I don't know that Wicked, I don't think is a prequel. Like we were talking about this last week, right? Wicked is more an IP based that works in the same world, right? It's not a direct prequel to Wizard of Oz.
Was there a wizard in it? Was it pre-wizard or post-wizard?
Well, it's pre Elphaba getting killed by Dorothy. So technically not killed by Dorothy because we've all seen it.
It's a prequel, kind of.
It is.
Wait a minute. How was she not killed by Dorothy?
Oh, Jesus. Spoiler alert,
Okay,
people. Spoiler alert.
Sorry.
Wizard of Oz fan?
Yeah, the house fell on her.
Sorry. You'll get there. I'm sorry, you'll get there in November.
Killed in the movie.
You'll get there in November. I think the two we just mentioned. I think Alien Romulus is a great because Alien Romulus in the timeline technically takes place before Aliens.
What about the X-Men movies? Days of
Future Past. But here's the problem there are as many bad X-Men movies, X-Men Fox movies as there are good ones. So for every X-Men and X-Men X2, X-Men United, there is fucking Dark Phoenix. Jesus fucking Christ. That movie makes me want to kill myself. But Days of Future Past, X-Men, the X-Men kid movie, right? The X-Men school movie where they're all young. Those were pretty successful, right? Instead of McKellen and Patrick Stewart, we had what was it? Oh God, I can't think of names tonight. But those were moderately successful. They've tried prequels. I'll give you an example of a prequel that did not succeed. That is still gonna we're making another Hunger Games movie that occurs before the Hunger Games, but they're not like the first one didn't.
Right there.
The first one didn't do great. Batman Begins.
Battle Royale was before the Hunger Games, I think, though, right?
But that again different. Batman Begins. Technically, its own franchise. The Nolan Batman movies don't count for anything.
Okay, real quick, who's the best
Sure.
Batman?
Michael Keaton.
Who?
Michael Keaton.
Damn straight. I'm with that. Okay.
Michael Keaton's like the best at everything he does, almost.
Well, Michael Keaton is Michael Keaton. We someday we're not going to have Michael Keaton. X-Men First Class. Thank you, Ken. Someday we're not going to have Michael Keaton. We're all going to be a lot worse for it. To be honest, Michael Keaton is great. Mr. Mom was fantastic. You and I always talk.
Gung Ho is one of
Gung Ho is fantastic. Mr. Mom is great. He made a lot of great movies. What was the one with everybody? The
Squeeze, and then
he made Night Shift is also highly underrated. He's not in the Burbs. That's Tom Hanks and Rick Dukeman. But yeah, I mean, prequels are tough. If you haven't, that's the guy's name. He was a comedian in the 90s. If you haven't seen Romulus, Jim, I can't recommend Romulus. As an Alien fan, Romulus.
The only thing I know of Alien is that Ridley Scott, he was the director, right?
No,
that wasn't.
The original Alien. Okay, I'm sorry. The original Alien was Ridley Scott. Aliens was James Cameron.
I made a fool of myself in front of Ridley Scott once.
You made a fool of yourself in front of Ridley Scott once?
He was the nicest man. He was the nicest man about it.
Do tell, Jim.
Okay,
this is a good story, Jim. Why are you saving it?
The musical director of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Richard Hartley, was to do a movie called Diamond Dead. With a guy named Andrew Gaddy, and Ridley Scott was directing it. So for like 6 months, every other week on Monday morning, we would get together on a conference call and we would talk. And they wanted me to do all of the web promotion because I had done Cosmos Factory. And that was when we were getting 1 million hits a month. And they found out that it was about a rock and roll band. And they sent me the drawings of the band, and the guitars were dead bodies. And they found out that I was a luthier, that I built electric guitars as a hobby. So I was going to build the guitar props, and I was also going to do all the web promotion and all of that. So we would all get on a conference call every couple of Mondays, and for probably 2 months, because I don't see movies, I kept calling this guy Riley. And he let it go for months. And I'd be like, well, Riley
Scott, really?
Yeah, because I didn't know it was Ridley, because I never heard the name Ridley. This was in like 98, 99, and I'd never heard the name. And so
Interesting fact here. Right around that time, he just won an Oscar. He had just won his first Oscar.
Yeah. So, so
Interesting.
finally,
For Gladiator.
yeah. So finally, Andrew Gaddy told me the one day, he said, by the way, just so you know, I doubt he'll ever tell you, but his name is Ridley, not Riley. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. So the next time we had the conference call, at the end of it, I was like, and by the way, I just wanted to say I'm very sorry to Riley for mispronouncing his name the whole time. And he was like, oh, it's okay, Jim, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he was just so unbelievably nice. This guy in Cincinnati who's been mispronouncing his name on a conference call for months.
I was thinking about some stuff. Cruella is a really good choice by Missy. Cruella's really good. I didn't like the new Lion King. I didn't like the prequel. I thought it was okay, but it wasn't anything special. But Cruella is special, and it is technically a prequel. Also, I'm wearing a Raiders of the Lost Ark shirt. Should say Temple of Doom is technically a prequel. It takes place before Raiders. Kind of successful. Pearl is an excellent prequel recently. That particular franchise, X, Pearl, and Maxine.
What is that a prequel to?
Pearl is a prequel to X, and Maxine is a sequel to Pearl, or Maxine is a sequel to X. So they did it out of order.
Is that the Elon Musk movie?
No. Well, okay. No. X is basically this movie that's basically about a bunch of kids who decide to film a porno. They go to the wrong farmhouse and they get kind of preyed on by the people in the farmhouse. And then Pearl was basically the prequel to that movie. And then Maxine was the sequel. The girl who survives the first movie going to LA for the porn scene. Technically, no. Technically, Fast 5 is a prequel. X-Men First Class, like was mentioned. This is one we didn't think about. Godfather Part 2 is always on the list, but we never really look at it. Technically, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a prequel.
That's a good movie.
To a Fistful of Dollars.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting one. Also recently, and I'm sorry I didn't mention it to you earlier. The one that actually stands out as the most successful in recent years, and Jerry will back me up on this. The first one was okay. The one that's the most successful, though, in what you asked, Jim, is The Rise of the Planet of the Apes. The Planet of the Apes movies that were made in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
They are all spectacular movies.
Yeah, they're good.
They're well done. They theoretically take place well ahead of any of the original Planet of the Apes movies and set everything up. And they're incredible movies. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War of the Planet of the Apes, and then the recent one that just came out last year. Yeah, all fantastic, all well done. State of the art, ape technology. So that's another one I forgot that we should have brought
Back
up.
to the Future 3 happens.
Okay,
the first one.
You can stick around. Stick around with us, Jim. We're going to Jerry's basement. We're already in Jerry's basement, but we do a movie every week called "It Came from Jerry's Basement." Jerry picks a movie out of his giant collection. Monster University, also a prequel. That's another good one. Yeah, I mean, there are some successful ones out there.
I'm sorry.
Temple of Doom is another one I can't believe I forgot, but it is what it is. But we're going to Jerry's basement. Jerry, what do we got this week? What do you got for me?
This week, we have The Borrower.
The Borrower.
1991.
Oh, Jerry.
Ray Don Chong.
So,
about an alien who gets banished to Earth, ends up with no head, and in order to sustain life, has to get heads.
And chaos ensues.
That's how I sustain my life.
Yeah, getting head is always the way to sustain your life.
That is the way we all.
That's the first
kind of make it work.
Ray Don Chong is in that. Tommy Chong's daughter.
Yep.
Huh. Yeah, so this is a movie made by John McNaughton. He also directed the phenomenal Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Where can we find it?
Where can you find it, Jerry?
YouTube.
Basement.
In Jerry's basement, that's true. Yeah, Ray Don Chong, it's a real fun little movie, right? It's science fiction horror is really it's basically an alien serial killer movie. Lots of fun. So so you can find it on YouTube. We have a couple other things before we get to the Twilight Zone.
By the way, happy this
April Fool's Day. I was going to talk to you. There are two movies I was going to talk to you about tonight. April Fool's Day, one of the absolute very best. It's a movie that failed when initial box office wise, but has become a cult film that our generation views as one of the best elite slasher films. In the sense, I think it didn't become the height of what it should have been because of the trick of the movie. If you know the trick of the movie, don't tell anybody. Let them experience it.
You can't give it away.
You can't give it away. It's a great fucking movie. Couple other stories that we want to get to. We did lose somebody this week. That was kind of a big deal at the Indie Escape Network. Joe was like very good friends with him and did shows with him, and I can't find the pictures now because I'm a fucking klutz. But this guy, you don't necessarily know who this is, but this is Richard Norton. He died at 75. He is one of the greatest and most prolific action choreographers and stuntmen in the history of film.
Kyle, turn your head.
He's worked.
There you go.
He's worked on movies like Mad Max: Fury Road, Suicide Squad. He was 75 when he died. He started film, Jerry. How about this? In a movie that you would see on YouTube or Tubi, The Octagon, which is a Chuck Norris movie. He worked with a lot of martial arts talent, especially Jackie Chan. His last film is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. He played the Emperor, the Imperator, the Prime Imperator. So he was a guy that was a friend of the network, and he you can see him here. You can see him here on the set of Suicide Squad, but he also worked with James Gunn on the Peacemaker show. And, you know, it was somebody that Joe knew really well and was a part of the network before I was a part of the network. So we want to give him praise. And, you know, stuntmen and choreographers, they don't get enough credit that they should get. And he was one of the very best, learning a business, you know, that's not always easy. Another thing, my main, oh, you're welcome, JW. You're welcome, Joe. No problem.
He's thinking of himself now. You hear this, everyone?
That's exactly right. I do want to talk about this for a moment. I hate David Zaslav so much. This is a movie called Coyote versus Acme. Okay. And last week we talked a little bit about this Ketchup Entertainment and releasing the Looney Tunes movie that's out in theaters now. And they didn't make a ton of money, but they made enough money. Ketchup Entertainment, who released this Looney Tunes movie, this week bought Coyote versus Acme versus Warner Brothers, the absolute worst studio going right now with David Zaslav running it. Coyote versus Acme, which is supposed to be very good. It was written off as a tax write-off for Warner Brothers, had rave reviews, 2 really great test screenings, and then a cast screening. And all the actors involved, miserable. But basically the plot goes, the Wile E. Coyote sues the Acme Corporation for faulty equipment. And it's apparently a hilarious comedy. It's live action and animated together. But this company, Ketchup Entertainment, bought it up. And they paid almost $50 million for it. So I'm going to tell you, when that movie comes out, that will be an opening night see for me, because I want to make sure that the Looney Tunes get their proper place in our world. And so this movie will now be seen. I was talking last night about it, Kyle. This movie stars John Cena. Don't you think they should release this movie soon? Like in the next 6 months, while we're on the Cena high right now?
Do you think that's a good idea with that target audience? You want kids, though.
Yes. No. I look. He's going to lose at WrestleMania, and he's going to find his heart again on Monday Night Raw, the night after WrestleMania.
I don't think he's losing at WrestleMania.
You think he's winning at WrestleMania? That's insane.
I think he's winning.
That's insane. Anyway, that's crazy talk. What were you saying, Jerry? Now Jerry's frozen.
So much for the computer working so far.
It's not just me. Motherfucker. Anyway, it hasn't been good tonight. Technically. And then the last thing before we get, that's the last thing actually. Coyote versus Acme is free. It's free to roam and go to theaters.
Just like that.
Just like that, everything works. No,
I kind of like the idea of the coyote suing, though. That's kind of
a great concept.
It is.
That's funny as balls. The idea that coyote
movie.
That's a real movie. It's got Will Forte, John Cena, and a bunch of other Looney Tunes, and it's basically a court case where the coyote sues the Acme Corporation for years of faulty equipment. And so I think the Looney Tunes can be used properly if they're given great ideas. And I just think we talked about it. That's a great idea. And now to an idea, but the movie You Can't See Me, maybe. And now for the moment that Kyle likes the least, but I don't know how you feel about it, Cosmo. We're doing Twilight Zone Redux. You've now crossed over to the Twilight Zone. Jerry, I fucking love this episode so much. One of the all-time very best episodes of the Twilight Zone. The episode is called The Invaders. This is the tagline for it. It is episode 15 of season 2.
Where they come from West Scranton.
It is the overall 51st episode of the series. So same age as me. 51st episode. Here's the opening narration. This is one of the out-of-way places. The unvisited places, bleak, wasted, dying. This is a farmhouse, handmade, crude. A house without electricity or gas. A house untouched by progress. This is the woman who lives in the house. A woman who's been alone for many years. A strong, simple woman whose only problem up until this moment has been that of acquiring enough food to eat. A woman about to face terror, which is even now coming at her from the Twilight Zone. And this episode, Jerry, first off, it's Agnes Moorehead, and this is where he gives the opening monologue, by the way, where she's in the background, Jerry.
Yeah, that's kind of neat.
He's right there. He's right next to her. She's in the background, and she's cutting potatoes, something, and putting it in a pot, and just kind of whatever. And it zooms in on it's Agnes Moorehead, fantastic actress, one of the very best actresses. And this episode, Jerry, has almost no dialogue. It is her screaming, her yelling, no dialogue. But basically, the episode follows this woman as her house is visited by a saucer, a saucer that looks mini compared to her. And she runs into little spacemen who are absolutely amazingly crafted dolls. And Jerry, other than the machine from the William Shatner episode we reviewed, I want one of these so bad, Jerry.
Oh yeah, they're pretty cool, right?
They're super cool. And they fire weapons, but you don't actually see the weapons, but it looks like a toy firing. She gets 3rd-degree burns on her arms. So she's tortured by these things, and she chases them around. The design of them is fantastic. They look incredible.
It's like chubby little one. Yes, he is. It's a little chubber.
It's like something out of Dune. Like the design of the little spaceman is absolutely incredible. And then, basically the whole episode, she's fighting them off. She finally goes to she knocks them down. She puts one in a blanket and just starts beating the shit out of it. And the whole episode, she's completely quiet. There's no talking. And then as the episode progresses towards its 25-minute running time, she comes to the top and she starts attacking the spacecraft because that's where they're going. At which point the damaged spacecraft is on the ground. It says U.S. Air Force space, number 1. And you get a bunch of communication from the ship. We've run into a race of giants. She's killed all the other astronauts. Stay away. Don't ever come here. We're not going to survive the night. And it turns out that we are the invaders. We've come across a planet that looks remarkably like ours, but the people on the planet are giants compared to us. And it's all a U.S. Air Force spaceship. And it's just spoilers. It was 60 years ago.
I like how they.
I thought you were the same age as it. You're 60 now?
Well, the show's 60, but it was episode 51. I'm 51.
I like how they picked a cabin and made it almost like it was a Western meets
a Western meets sci-fi, but also it is the cabin.
Throws you off, right?
It throws you off. It's one of the best trick Twilight Zone ends ever, right? It's absolutely spectacular. The performance by Agnes Moorehead is great because you don't realize she's a mute giant until the end of the episode. But so everything she does is based on her acting, her facial expressions, how she reacts to getting cut by a knife. Yeah. Like, it's a great performance. It's written by Richard Matheson, who, again, I've talked about. I don't know that I can talk about it anymore. He's the absolute one of the absolute. Brother? Who? What?
Was that Wally's brother?
Wally Matheson?
Yeah.
Richard Matheson? No. Jesus Christ. I hate you, Kyle. I hate you, Kyle, so much.
So JW, in the group text there's a photo that you should load up.
What photo? What?
Okay. I tried, Joe. It's not me you got to fire this time.
I didn't get to that. I wasn't done talking about the Twilight Zone.
Oh, okay.
I already have it loaded up.
We have priorities.
I have it loaded up.
I do like next week's episode.
Next week's really good too.
Next week,
I don't know that it's a mega classic, but I know it's a pretty good episode with an actor that's already been in the Twilight Zone, which is kind of cool, right? So he gets a second shot, right? And I think the interesting thing here, the performance is so good. It's an underrated, very underrated performance where you look at it and you go, that's utterly like Agnes Moorehead's fantastic in this episode.
Moorehead.
Jesus. Really? Really?
Well, you always use a lot for Moorehead.
And she keeps her mouth shut too.
Okay. Closing narration. These are the invaders, the tiny beings from the tiny place called Earth, who would take the giant step across the sky to the question mark that sparkle and beckon from the vastness of the universe, only to be imagined. The invaders, who found out that a one-way ticket to the stars beyond has the ultimate price tag, and we have just seen it entered in a ledger that covers all the transactions in the universe, a bill stamped, paid in full, and to be found unfiled in the Twilight Zone. Next week's episode's A Penny for Your Thoughts, another great episode that is kind of a comedic episode. Extremely well done. So we'll see everybody next week. You didn't just make it. You had it a while ago. You had it earlier. You had it much earlier, unless it's a different group chat. Yeah, Joe, you sent that at 9:39, and you actually sent the last one at 9:39. I had them both. So, anyway.
The anticipation of what he's talking about is on Thursday, April 3rd at 10 p.m.
Take down the comments. World Class Clown with Robert Bass. Special guest James Young, who I believe is one of Robert's mentors and person that he really personally loves for his comedy. We're super excited to have Robert back. We're super excited to have James Young joining us on the Indie Escape Network. Also coming up next week, and again, this was all stuff I had planned out. Gabe has another episode of Symbolistic Cynicism coming up next week. It's next Wednesday, so look for that. He's got a great guest. He's an amazing person that talks to really great guests, and we're super excited to have them both back. And then I want to thank Jim. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. We appreciate you. Again, where can people find your book?
You can find it at asylumpublications.com.
Or cosmofactory.org.
Cosmosfactory.org.
Cosmosfactory.org.
Yeah.
I agree. You know what, Joe? I don't always say it, but
take a screenshot of that.
That I need that shit saved. Also, I do want to talk. As I am the host of Generation Movie. No Generation Movie next Monday. I have something big going on that I can't talk about. We're going somewhere else. But the week we come back, the 14th, we start the Mission Impossible run. So we will be doing every Mission Impossible movie from now until the end of May.
Watching all that sounds like an impossible mission to me.
First off, incredible franchise. We're super excited to be doing it. I love Tom Cruise. I think Tom Cruise gives me 110 every time he shows up.
Did you used to watch the show?
I used to watch the show. I love the show too. And I think the movies are a great progression, but I think they kind of hit a second gear when they hit the fourth movie. Ghost Protocol is a completely different direction, and they've really done an incredible amount of they've done great box office, but they've also been incredibly well done action movies that other action movies can kind of look at and try to imbibe. So as we celebrate the end of Mission Impossible, theoretically,
same poster, different filter, cheap movie.
Low budget studio.
Paramount is a low budget studio. God,
it's a callback. It's a callback.
I got you. I know. I'm just playing. I want to thank Jim for joining us tonight. Cosmo for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Thank you all for coming out and watching the show tonight. We'll see everybody next week.
Remember, no show on Monday for JW. He's got to go have dinner at the White House. He'll be enjoying his time there.
No, I'm going somewhere else. I'm going somewhere
epic.
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 He's going to a Tesla dealership.